All right, guys, so here we go. So today's topic is all going to be about leading a performance-based team. Thank you for being here. This is a brand new series. It's going to go into our podcast. It's going to be part of our blog content. And what we're talking about today in this Leading a Performance-Based Team series is how do you successfully launch a new team member that's on performance-based pay. And what we want to do is we want to take you through some of the things that we do when we are interviewing and going through the interviewing and the hiring process. And we also want to take you into the first 90 days, which is part of where Elmore's in here. And then the next 90 days, and then what it looks like to be successfully launched. I'm going to give you some of the things that we have found works not only in our company, but we know works in air conditioning, heating, plumbing, electrical, and right on down the line. Why this performance-based team series? Well, guys, that answer is pretty straightforward. We believe in companies that model a flat rate model, and in most of those flat rate models, we can look and we can track financial percentages according to the revenue brought in that should be applied to labor. So whether or not you're actually paying hourly or whether or not you're paying straight commission or some form of that, at the end of the day, what you're really still doing is you're adjusting, you're modifying, and you're paying based off a financial number, which is another way of going performance-based pay. So that's the topic here today. Let's introduce some of the guys that you may or you may not know. First person I want to introduce is Brandon. So Brandon, tell everybody in like 30 seconds a little bit about who you are, where you come from, and what your position is here with the company.
Brandon Cockrell. Been with SET now for a little over a month and a half. Mm-hmm. Super excited to be part of the team. But my background started in the restaurant industry. Then I started working at the Dwyer Group, and so for a little almost 4 years now, I've been working in the trades, helping coach business owners and technicians alike, and love doing it. And happy to be on the team and add clients as soon as possible.
All right, thank you, Brandon. And Elmore, let the folks know what you're doing here at the company, and your position's kind of evolved, and that's a good thing because you're helping me out. But tell me a little bit about what you're doing.
Well, I've been with SET now for almost 10 months. I've been working with 9 different companies right now, teaching a class, and recently I picked up the duties and the title of Director of Operations, which means we're putting some structure to what we've been doing successfully for years. We're just getting some structure as we grow because, you know, one of the things about our topic is a performance-based team, and a performance-based team has to have the tools to perform. And so as we grow, it's not just going to be Todd taking care of everything anymore and doing, you know, what he's always done, because this was built by you, right? And so taking a lot of this stuff out of here, all that great idea and content, not the hair, but a lot of the great idea and content, and getting it down in a structure so that it can be repeatable and it can be duplicated and we can grow beyond all of our wildest dreams, right?
That's right. That's right. So as we go through, we're going to do one of these a month, and I'm just going to do my best, if you're in a management position or an owner position, just to say, hey, what does that look like? So the very first thing that we want to do is we want to talk about the interview process. And I believe as a company that you should have constant recruiting on the brain, but what I also believe is that you should never hire someone just because they can fog a mirror. I think that when you hire someone, you need to do it with the mindset of thinking, you know, this not only is a responsibility to my clients, but I got a responsibility to this person that I'm hiring. And I don't want to hire someone that isn't going to be able to be successful here, because at the end of the day, you're missing goals, you're missing opportunities, and you're really hurting families. So I mean, you've got how many kids?
2.
2, beautiful wife. And you know, when I think about Brandon as a team member, I'm thinking about his family. And I realize he's got 2 little boys, got a beautiful wife. And if he fails here, then that's my fault because I'm the guy that hired him. And one of the things that you want to do is you want to avoid those failures, whether you're hiring for techs or CSRs or salespeople. You want to do your best to avoid for those failures. So ask a question. I'm going to ask a question of you guys. Have you ever not hired well? Maybe you hired too fast and you've had one of those failures that I'm talking about. If you have, let me know. So how do we do our best to avoid failures? Really, it's 2 parts. It's very, very simple concepts. One is that if we don't know the person very well by reputation, are by personal experience, then we go through an extraordinarily long interview process. Very long. Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of interviews. Multiple sessions. We typically will meet with the spouse. We will have them meet with our team. We will dig in really deep. We will paint the beautiful picture, but we will spend a lot of time painting not just the opportunities, but what are some of the scary sides of it. And that process, guys, in all sincerity, it's not uncommon that it's 3 months, sometimes longer than that. And you may go, well, that seems crazy. That seems like wild. If I need someone now, why would I go through that long kind of process? Well, number one, you shouldn't hire someone just because you need them now. If you're recruiting, then this 3-month, 6-month process is going to do a lot of things for you. It's going to reveal to you who this person is. And as this person is going to really begin to understand your culture, if they hire on understanding your culture a lot better because of the amount of time you've invested with them, chances are they're going to hang on. So when do we shortcut that? Because there are times that we shortcut that. And the times that we shortcut that is if it is say a temporary position. I still think that it's okay in summertime to hire people just to help you out with installs. So that's not necessarily a bad thing, but you better know their experience and their skill set are going to be in trouble. Or B, if you've got a lot of personal experience. So like Brandon, he didn't go through the 3-4 month process with us, and the primary reason why he didn't is because he worked with both Chris Elmore and he worked with both Chris Loudermilk. So I've got 2 of my long-term team members that know of his potential. So we were able to shorten that process up a little bit. But Brandon, coming from your standpoint, because you're the guy that's in the performance-based position, what were some of the things in the interview process that perhaps scared you, but created clarity with you to make you go, okay, I realize what I'm in for. If I don't go out and kill something and bring it home, then the family's going to suffer. But what made you go ahead and say, okay, I'm willing to take that leap?
Well, honestly, I did have the benefit, pretty much the same benefit that you had in having Chris Elmore and Chris Loudermilk on your team, advocating for me. But at the same time, I believe and trust in these men. So them telling me that, this is a great opportunity, we'll explain it to you, we'll help you along the way, that made it a lot easier. But at the same time, you had a very clear pay plan. It was not very difficult to understand. It was straightforward, and basically, I realized that I could achieve my own personal goals through that pay plan. Mm-hmm. And I felt that it was very realistic to be able to add clients on in a timely basis, or in a time frame that was going to get me where I wanted to go. So. One of the only other scary things was, the age of the business, how long you'd been around, and I think that was kind of like, oh, you know what? But I wanted to be a part of something on the ground level, and you guys have been around, you've been doing this for a while, but I wanted to get in the beginning, and I think it's neat to be able to be a part of that. But I chose to jump on because I am confident in what you're doing here and what these guys have all told me in the beginning.
Okay, very fine. So let's go into that, because part of the interview process and part of successfully launching, if you're going to be in a performance-based company, is how do you pay your guys. So, and we're going to go through this really quick because I want to put as much value as I can for you guys. When you're going to pay someone on performance-based pay, you've got a couple of approaches. One, and by the way, we've done both of these approaches here in the company. It depends upon what we're doing. But one way to do it is to set them up with a period of time to where you say to them, what we're going to do is we're going to forgive any of the lack of performance that you have because you're in a learning period. And another way of doing that is to say you are already educated. You are already at the point where we need you to be short of our systems and procedures. So we're going to start accruing, what we consider to be your base now. Now we're going to go ahead and provide you with a base, but you're going to have to give that base back as you earn over this year, because this isn't a new department. It's not a new concept. It's a proven concept that we know that works. So as a company, you can choose both approaches. And like I said, we've done both. Depends on what it is. When we have a new concept and there's no proof of this concept, I take some of the risk as a business owner. So that would be like if you were if you were launching a new division and you don't have any leads right out of the gate, well, then chances are pretty good you're going to have to, compensate for some of that. But if you've already got an established position, you've got someone that's highly trained, they're not junior technicians, they've been at it for 10 years, they've come from a company where they produce these numbers, they're already trained on flat rate. Well, there's not a lot of good reasons why they shouldn't start off in performance-based mode right out of the gate. But just so you know, one of the things that we will do here, and this kind of leads us in to what Brandon was talking about, is we super clearly define what our expectations are. We do that in our KRA. By the way, if you're checking this out in podcast, I'll put it in the show notes. If you're going to check this out on the blog in the future, I'll put a link to KRA in the show note as well. But we practice what we preach. We define the KRAs. We say, this is what's expected. This is what your potential earn is. Here it is. Do you agree to it? And before they ever come on board, they've got to say, yes, I do. And they sign off on that. So there's a super clear expectation as to what's expected. So hire well, based off interview, our deep personal experience. Set the expectation before day one and say, you know how you're going forward into this. And now let's move. Now that you have a clear expectation, let's move. So now let's talk about what happens after someone's on board. And Elmore had talked about getting the things that are in my head and getting them out there. And by the way, that's absolutely the truth. If any of you guys have ever read any of the books on business, what happens in any business is it typically goes from someone's got a dream and an idea and they can do something well, and then they outgrow their own abilities to do it all. It's like,
law of the lid.
Law of the lid. And now all these things that you know and that you do well, you have to start setting up strong systems, operations, and procedures. Well, here in this company, I've had to do the same exact thing. I've had to bring on people to help me go, okay, look, there's opportunities, and if we're going to scale this out down the road, we've got to replicate, and we've got to put in, and we got to create, structures and processes. So what I want to do is I want to talk about the first 90 days. And as he says, a month and a half in, I want to talk about the first 90 days, what the expectation is in a company for the first 90 days. I'll make that super clear with you guys. And then the second 90 days. So, and I'm about to turn it over to you, Elmore, but just to make it super simple with us, I'll ask you some good questions. The first 90 days here for us is essentially to prove that you have the goods to make it into the next 90 day. We're not necessarily mandating that you have your first client in the first 90, but what we absolutely want is for you to learn our press play approach to tech, to sales, CSRs, managers, and prove that you got that. At the end of 90 days, if you don't, guess what? No harm, no foul. I paid for 90 days of experimentation and you get to leave, and I don't ask that you owe me that. But if we move into the next 90 days, then you're on the team and it's time to dig in, and you're going to have to make back that money plus money that's going forward. So talk about the first 90 day, guys. You're in 145 days. You've already got your first client. Mm-hmm. Share with them how you try to lay out the first 90, Elmore.
Well, the first thing I did was, because of our approach is a little different than what Brandon was doing in the past, a little bit different. We come from the same place. Brandon worked for me as a franchise consultant over there. And Brandon was assigned to multiple businesses and upwards of 30 businesses that he would support on a monthly basis. Yep. So what we do here is so different, being limited to 12 clients and doing the weekly training and that. I wanted him to see the difference. And of course, assimilation, that's a big word, and Loudermilk will like that word. So assimilation. So just like you said, learning the press play way that we do things at set. And so for the first 3 weeks, Brandon basically shadowed or sat in as a visible participant in the trainings that I did with my clients. So he could see what we were doing, and it helped him to gain some of hear some of the words and the terms and things like that. So that was the first 3 weeks, roughly. Yep. And then we did another podcast earlier for one of our clients, Jack Arnold, as you know, and you guys look out for that. But Jack Arnold is in Chicago. He came on, and so Brandon then went and shadowed me while we did his initial startup visit. And Brandon did some of it because he was familiar with working with a business owner in a business location. Right. And so now going forward, it's about, now obviously we have a class cycle coming up next week, so Brandon will go through the class cycle. He'll see the classroom sessions that we do. And then after that, he's already got a client, so now he's going to start applying. He'll still sit in with me and other coaches and those kind of things, just to continue to learn the ropes about just the industries we serve and the clients we serve.
Right. And guys, one of the things that, and I know not every business can do this next thing that I'm about to share, but I'm going to share something with you that you may find kind of interesting, fascinating, and it's just something I'm just curious what you think about it. And again, drop a comment here on Facebook, or if you're listening to this on the website, drop a comment there. But one of my core philosophies, and every guy that comes here knows this, is yes, we've got KRA expectations, and I have what I want a typical coach to do, which is to have 12 clients. And if they're taking care of 12 clients, they're being paid well. But if a coach came in and said, I really just want 9 clients, and I'm okay with the amount of money that I can earn off 9 clients, as long as those 9 clients are super happy, they're getting results, then for me, I'm willing to accept that. That doesn't become an issue to me. And I think that's one of the things that you guys have got to consider. It's almost like I have a guy that's a maintenance technician versus maybe what we might call level 1 service repair technician versus a guy that can, flip leads versus a guy that can sell them. Which is to say that you need to realize what you need in your company, sure, but you also need to realize that there's opportunities to say, if that's where you're comfortable and that's where you want to serve, we can make that happen. And their KRA is going to be different. You can't go in with just one universal KRA and say this is what success looks like for you. Now, I'll also tell you this, as an owner, I'm willing to accept whatever level of work and responsibility these guys want to achieve as long as they're accomplishing our standards. If they want 6 clients, fundamentally, I don't really have an issue with that. If they want 12 clients, that's great. Now, if they're wanting 15, that's probably not going to happen because I know that we've reached our limit to serve well. But I fundamentally don't have an issue with it. But when you claim something to me, until you remove that claim, I'm going to push you towards it. Because that's the whole idea. It's performance-based. You say you want 10, well, we're going to get 10. You say you want 12, well, we're going to get 12. If we agree to this for a period of time, that's what we're going to do this year. When we cross the threshold, you realize that, maybe you want more, maybe you want less. We can figure that out when we cross the threshold, but we can't not serve a client in the process. That's a lot like a technician saying to you in the beginning of spring, I want all the hours that I can get. Well, let's agree to that now. And finding out halfway through they don't want all the hours because they didn't realize that meant 80 a week. You can't renegotiate inside of the time frame that we've all agreed upon. You got to wait till that time frame expires, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So we set all that up early. And man, I'm curious, do you do that? I want you to give me a yes or no. If you set up all those strong expectations early, give me a yes or a thumbs up. If you don't, give me a no or something other than a thumbs up, and then we'll know, okay? I want to hear from you. So now let's talk about what happens after the next 90. Brandon, we're into the next 90 now. You are fundamentally trained. For your own mindset, that's 45 days from now. By the way, you're doing great. That's 45 days from now, Brandon. In your mindset, what is on your personal list of goals? And Elmore, you can jump in here. Y'all can kind of tag team this together. What's on your personal list of goals, and what's the expectation? How are you getting them to the next 90?
So I'll just jump in real quick. For me personally, like you said, I was working on actually goal setting just the other day. I started to put them down on paper and make them real. And one of the things that I wanted to have 12 clients, but I broke that down a little bit further, and I did already pick up my first client. Shout out to Johnny Kerr. Super excited about Integrity Air and coming up. No, I want to try and put on a new client every 45 days for the next however long it takes me to get 12 clients. So that's my goal there. The other thing are some personal goals, health and fitness and things like that. But really,
you want to gain some weight?
Yes, absolutely. Trying to look like these guys
he's
right
super
here.
Skinny for all of you in podcast land. If you don't, he's skinny.
Don't give Todd a chance to flex, please.
Okay, so thank God we're on podcast.
It looks all like belly muscle.
But no, over the next 45 days, and then in the second 90, what I hope to learn and grow, because that's what I'm always trying to do, is I'm trying to be a sponge, and whenever my sponge is filled, I'm trying to turn into a larger sponge. Just trying to learn everything that I can. And I try to do that through following Elmore, following Chris Loudermilk, Terry Barrett, all the guys that are on the team. Todd, you guys have been so great to me, and so just learning the system is what I'm really focused on over the next 90 to 120 days.
Hey, Brandon, you're not going to get fired based off your level of compliments here.
What about promoted?
Now, you said something, and then I want to get you involved in this. He said he wants a client every 45 days. I love that. You've broken it down into what it takes to hit 12 clients at the end of the year. Now, that's our goals, and you may be going, wow, we got technicians that are going on service calls a day. Okay, well, let me ask you this. He's looking at 12 clients. What if you looked at it as 12 skill sets that you want this technician to have by the end of the year? And that's the performance that he's going to achieve is going to be based off his 12 skill sets. If you broke it down like that and said, if I just got a technician to have one new skill set every 45 days, what would that level 1 service tech be at the end of the year? Would he be a level 2 service tech? And if he was a level 2 service tech, how much more money could that guy make? So see, not everybody's motivated by money, but one of the things that we can pretty much almost always track is that if my skills improve, if my confidence improves, if my knowledge goes up, I can typically represent that as an increase in personal performance and personal pay. So you got to find the ways that motivate guys. We got some, what's up, David? Hello, I see you too. So from your standpoint, if they're thinking, after that next 90 days, how are you keeping him on track? So I want you to address that, Elmore. As the guy that's the operations officer right now today, how are you keeping him on track and making sure that you're taking him through his training well so that, we got the next 90 days and that he's successful, he can bring on that client every 45 days?
Well, for me, it comes down to, and if it's Brandon or anybody that I'm responsible for training or mentoring or bringing along in the process, is I'm going to have frequent assessments. Mm-hmm. And when we say assessment, there's another word that Loudermilk's going to like. Loudermilk likes the big long words. But it's frequent assessments. And it might be something as simple as, hey, give me your credibility agenda price statement from the press play training. Mm-hmm. And I want him to do that. I'll give him a pop quiz on profiles, something like that. Maybe we'll do a demo of how he should set up a new client in Intermetrics for profiles or organizational health checkups, those kind of things.
Very cool.
But for me, it's frequent assessment. So I know that I've got my finger on the pulse of his development in what we want him to learn. And if I wind the clock way back, and some of you may not know my background, but I started as a technician. I ended up becoming a service manager and then an ops manager, and then got into franchising for one of the companies I was with, etc. And one of the things I always did was I made sure that we stuck to the basics, made sure we mastered the basics of what we were doing in technical, so it was HVAC company. So we would have a class, and I'm sitting in our training room with 20 technicians. I'm 27 years old. Most of them are older than me. And we're having an hour-long meeting on how to strip a wire.
Right.
So we're making sure that the basics are always maintained, because the little things like that will hurt us the biggest if we just let them go.
Right.
And so that's another piece of it. So frequent assessments of some sort, not always hey, Brandon, you're going to take a written test and your future depends on this.
But it does.
But it does. But some sort of assessment, it might be just some casual conversation, verbal. I might say, hey, Brandon, I want you to teach a class this session, this week for my clients. Those kind of things. And then making sure the basics are being done well.
Right. Very good. Going to take a pause real quick here, guys, because we wouldn't be doing these things if we didn't have clients that were paying us money, and we want you to be a client that pays us money. So if you already are, thank you, and if you're not, shoot us a message. You can put it in the comments, or you can just shoot us a message. You can send us an email. Let us know that you need a conversation. You need a business coach this year to help guide you through your processes, whether that's for your technicians, your salespeople, your managers, yourself, your CSRs. We can help you in 3 different ways. We've got monthly, ongoing coaching. We've got classroom training. Or we can just come out and do an on-site and get you guys fired up for the winter, the summer, the spring, whenever. So we want to be your client. We want to coach your team, and I believe that we can do a better job than anyone else out there, not just because we care more, but because we do this every single week, multiple times a day. I can't prove this. I'd have to go do some math, but I believe that with the number of coaches that we have, each doing coaching sessions, I gotta believe that there's no one that gets more practice at their skill set than our team. I seriously doubt anyone's doing more than we are, and we're just getting started, baby. There's a lot of contractors out there that need some help. So let us help you, okay? Now let me also share with you where this is going. This is part of my performance-based series. I hope you're enjoying it. I'm only going to do one of these a month. I'm going to share with you what we're going to do next month, and then we're going to get back into some comments, questions, and we want to field those from you. But next month, pardon me, our topic for next month is how do you set up visual boards? I'm just trying to see if I can get it. I don't know. You might not be able to see this all the way in podcast land. You can't see this. You can look in the show notes. You'll be able to see it. But how do you set up visual boards that help motivate your team, help guide your team to success, visually represents where you're going. And guys, there's so much power to this. So we're really going to unpack this in a big way in our next one, which we'll release in February. So if you're listening to this, click the link, go to the show notes, find the place where you put your name in and say you want to follow along, and we'll make sure that we're getting you all those goodies. All right? If you're here on Facebook, shoot me a message, and I'll send you a link and show you where you sign up. You can go ahead and get in that today. That's totally free. That's some awesome stuff that we're doing. And this is going to be an approach that we're taking, by the way, to our media content in 2018. We've got content specifically for CSRs, dropping text, salespeople, leading performance-based team, business owners. We're really narrowing in. And a big, big part of what we're going to be doing is talking about you as a client, your journey, your actual results. So I hope you guys are digging that. So we're just going to recap on today's lesson before we jump into our live questions and comments. Today's lesson, if we're going to make it real fast, is in a couple parts. One, interview well before you hire. Take the long interview. Check the references. If you know someone from personal experience, you can shorten it up. If it's a temporary position and they've got the skill set, you can shorten it up. Otherwise, take your time. Make sure you're using KRAs, Key Result Accountability Areas, sometimes referred to as KPIs. Look for that in the show notes. You can get that for free here. In the first 90 days, have an intensive training plan. Have a goal. Make sure you're communicating that. And in the next 90 days, it's really about getting them ready to fly on their own. We're talking 180 days in your company, and sometimes you're 270 days in if you had the long interview process. So if you do this and you do this well, what you have is you have someone at the end of the year that is ready to be independent, and is ready to be coachable, trainable, moldable, but is making you money. And what you don't have is someone at the end of the year that's not really any better than when you got started. And you're looking for people that can put in their own batteries and make it happen. And that's what this is all about. All right, so guys, this is what I'm going to do. It's your question and it's your comment time. So what I want you to do is I want you to drop your questions in the show notes. We're going to hang out here for a little bit longer. We're going to address those questions. We're going to address those comments. If you like this, then just let us know you like it. And for sure, you got to hit that share button. If you want to do this, you got to show us love. Hit that share button, hit that like button. So I'm going to turn around over here, guys. I'm going to turn the camera off. We're going to keep this going, though, here live on Facebook. Let's see a question specifically related to how do you successfully launch a new performance-based team member in the beginning, all right? So if y'all see some questions come up here, let's see them. Y'all just chit-chat with them for a minute. I'm going to get this turned off.
Yeah, Jason, I see. I'll